So my name is Calvin Shirley. I am the team lead for IT and networking at HackIllinois. Some people at HackIllinois know me as the guy who took the extra food after the event last year. Don't worry, it went to a good place. But what is the vision here? What is the reason that I'm up here talking about this, and why does it matter? So just to kind of get an idea, how many of the hackathons represented here, how many have some kind of definition of IT within their organization? Okay, so that's interesting. So can somebody who raised their hand keep them up, or just shout out, why do you have that definition? I got 15 minutes here, so. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah, so to make sure everything is taken care of, which is important because that's not necessarily something that everybody is always thinking about, or it's something that you kind of assume, or it's in the back of your mind. How about somebody who their group doesn't have this formal definition? Can someone tell me why they maybe don't have this? And if not, that's okay. Kind of a on-the-spot question. Yeah, go ahead.
We have school taking care of all our IT.
Okay, excellent. So one of the things that I have noticed, so I spend a lot of time sitting in a room full of computer science majors. And I'm generalizing a bit here because not everyone here is a computer science major, but they tell me that the people that run our school's Wi-Fi don't know what they're doing and that they could do it better, because of course they can. And to that, I respond with this graph, this diagram. And that is, the similarity between computer science and information technology is that they both use computers. Okay, so not entirely true, but there is some truth behind that, in that coming here as a person who is not a developer and maybe not even a hacker in some senses of the term, but an IT professional, the pages I'm looking at and the values and visions I have might be different than everybody else. And it seems to me, just from everything I've seen and all of the people that I know, that the IT side of hackathons and hacking is a little bit more limited in this case, more limited than the developers and the hackers. And it's a little bit more difficult to get that kind of perspective. So what I'm going to do here is not only tell you how HackIllinois does everything and how we run things, so maybe you'll take some ideas from this, but also hopefully open myself up as a resource, and any of the other IT professionals, either here, watching the stream, or in the community, will also do the same and spread our knowledge and spread our advice with the rest who maybe don't have these people within their local communities. So a little background, HackIllinois' our core team is comprised of 12 people. It might be 13 now. We kind of move things around. But we have 2 directors, and we have 10 individuals who are each responsible for, let's call it a department. So last year, IT wasn't formally on this core team. We kind of existed under systems, which does all of our app development and such. And this year, we realized that the importance of having these resources and having IT defined as part of our event was actually something that we were considering. So we moved that up to a core role. And it's definitely paid off, and I really hope that going forward, it'll continue to stay there. So, funny story, HackIllinois was originally supposed to be called HackUIUC, and saying that now, that feels so weird to say because it just doesn't sound right. But we were talking about the name internally, and we decided, okay, HackUIUC, let's figure that out, but let's not register any domains until we are sure that that's what our name is going to be. So we tried to keep it, quiet. We didn't tell people this is what we're going to be. A couple weeks in, we go to register this domain. We find out it's already taken, and if you go to it in a web browser, this is what you see. So the first job of HackIllinois IT was to kick somebody's ass. No, it was to figure out, okay, so let's get this taken care of. Okay, so beyond that, the first thing I want to talk about are some of our web and internal tools. So our front-end website, I have absolutely nothing to do with. And all I'm going to share about that is that We use Google App Engine to power our websites and web services for a few reasons. Number one, it's super cheap, it's super reliable, and we don't have to deal with it. So we don't have to run our own web server, we don't have to take care of security and patching. That's just abstracted, that's done. And it's really easy for our development team to go in and push changes to this and not worry about any of the infrastructure. We have development versions, we have test versions. Simple for everybody. Internally, this is our last year, this is our 2014 internal website. So these numbers don't actually mean anything. This is from our dev instance. But I assume every group has some kind of tool internally like this because, again, great hackathons here. I'm sure you all have great developers who make these kinds of tools for yourselves. But this is ours. So moving away from the common stuff, internally for email and for discussion in groups, we use Google Apps. So one of the cool things you can use with Google Apps is a feature called Groups, which will essentially make you a mailing list, which you can put people on, you can give them emails, because everyone wants to get emails, but that is essentially the way that we do mail. So that said, we got lucky and we got a license for Google Apps before they started restricting and cracking down on those. So that's super difficult to get now. Unless you're a registered 501c3 nonprofit, then you might have a hard time, but maybe that's okay because maybe you don't need this. Maybe you don't have this many staff or you want to organize your staff in a different way. We happen to use Google Apps just because it integrates with just about every tool that we use. So, for example, a tool that we came up with by accident that I saw actually, I'm like, hey, this looks cool, maybe we should try it, is a Google App Engine plugin that creates short links. So we have go.hackillinois.org, which is one of our most commonly used internal tools, and that just creates short links that are branded to us, and that's all within App Engine. The other important thing that we use is our document management system, which is Google Docs. So every single thing we do is uploaded into Google Docs. I guess it's Drive now, sorry. So we restrict this. We have 2 levels of restriction. Number 1 is for our staff, who every single person on our staff with a HackIllinois.org email address can view. Beyond that, we have our core team, which, the things that we don't necessarily want restricted that we don't necessarily want everybody to be able to access before we're ready is restricted to our core team and nothing beyond that. So again, diving into some of those folders, it's restrictions are set by the groups that we set before and by folders. So during the event, email beforehand is kind of manageable, but during the event, it's a little bit more difficult because people are emailing us to ask for stuff, not everybody is there, it's hard to get everybody on the same page for email. So we use a ticketing system the day of, and again, I can talk more about these in more detail if you're interested later. But this is essentially a way to keep track of every single request, make sure that it gets fulfilled, and make sure that the right staff know of what's going on, instead of directing things directly to one person's email or a couple of people email who might not be there. So those are some of our web tools. Networking is the next part, which is probably my favorite, cool. So how do we do this? No, just kidding. The number 1 question I get from everybody as soon as I tell them I work in IT is, how do you keep the wireless working? Yeah, I hear everybody's listening now. And the takeaway from this, the big secret for keeping your hackathons wireless working is, it's actually really difficult. Or you could hire me, but no. So a couple of things I'm just going to go over to consider, and again, we can talk more about this in detail, but if you're unfortunate enough to have to run your own wireless, survey the site, find out what exactly you need. So maybe you have people in different rooms, that's going to have different needs than everybody in the same room. Select your equipment. So the vendor matters, but not as much as you might think. So a lot of the time I hear, if it's not Cisco, it's not good. Everybody knows Cisco, but we actually, for example, use a vendor called Maroon Networks, and it works fine for us. And I've seen people who use Cisco, and it's terrible. The number of access points and radios, again, depends on your site. The takeaway from all of this is it depends on every single site. So every building is different, every hackathon is different, every participant is different. I wish I could get up here and tell you the formula for making your hackathons internet working, but it's just not that simple. So HackIllinois, here's some of the things that kept us online. So those are some of the switches and routers and access points that kept us online during the day. Siebel Center, which is our computer science building, which is where the event was held, has 172 wireless access points. They were recently redone, wireless 802.11 AC. So we were very fortunate to have that. And then the little Lego guy in the corner, that's me, because I didn't get to sleep. Well, I got to sleep, but if things got wrong, I was the one that got the phone call. So to get there, we worked very closely with our campus IT group. We worked with them for the wireless upgrade, again, in the Siebel Center to get those new access points. We planned wired networking, so in case the wireless went down, what happens? What's the fallback? So we pushed wired networking into every room just to make sure. And then the day of setup and the support, so being on site when things were actually happening, being accessible when things weren't working as planned. So the takeaway from this is start thinking about this early. Don't wait until a month before. Don't wait until 3 months before. This is something we've been thinking about 8 or 9 months out. Open communication early. Tell the groups that you're working with exactly what you want. So right now for this year, we're moving again towards the expo style. So what I'm working on right now, and this is kind of a jank map because I threw it together last minute because I can't actually show the real blueprints. But this is kind of what I'm working on now, is figuring out the needs of this space. Where do we need to put switches? Where do we need access points? Where are we putting people? So one other project that we're kind of working on, so it doesn't always have to be these weird operational, nobody cares about, these are just logistics things, is we're trying to improve our check-in process. So I don't know how this idea came up, but at one point, people have done app check-ins. People have done, come up to a table and tell them your name. They look it up. What we want to try doing this year is giving everybody a little slip with a barcode on it. And the reason we want to do it this way is because, number one, if you use an app, either it won't work or not everyone will have it for one reason or another. Number two, it streamlines things. Once they've got this, it's fast. Is it going to work? Well, I hope so, but maybe not. So you never know if you don't try it. So this is one thing that we're working on from now. And that's, I only have 15 minutes here, but that's really all I had prepared. Now that said, like I said, everything is different. Every hackathon is different and has different requirements. And if you are working on your hackathon now, or even if you've had one in the past, I'm interested to hear how you're doing things. So do feel free to get in touch. My contact info is up there. Come see me at lunch, grab a card, and start a discussion because I'd love to hear how you do things and how we can improve as a community in just about every way. So thank you very much.